everyone, welcome back. So today's video is going to have a couple different parts. Whenever my husband and I travel, I always put together a traveler's notebook for us that gives all the details of our trip. It's actually like a normal Midori regular traveler size notebook. And it actually started several years ago when we went hiking in Yellowstone and then had a family reunion. And I thought it would be a fun way to record where we actually hiked in Yellowstone, what we saw, what our memories were. And so each of us at the end of the day sat down and made notes about where we were, what we saw, what it was like, what we enjoyed, what the trials were, because some of the hikes were a little steep. It's nice to go and look back on that. So I did one the next year for Yosemite, and then this coming trip to New Zealand is our most recent large trip, so I made one for this as well. Now, of course, I don't want to show the details of our trip, so what I'm going to show you is how I put everything together. And just as a spoiler, I'm doing the same thing I did when I put together the planner inserts for my ring-bound planner, where I merged the Excel file into InDesign. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on how that works. If you want more detail and the basics on how to do that, please go watch the video I'll link down below on how I merge dates into my InDesign planner templates, and that'll give you all the details on that. But I do want to show you how I set up the Excel sheet again and what I included, how that kind of flows into the pages. And then actually at the end of the video, I'll show you how I actually put the notebook itself together. I do have a couple of things that most people won't, one of which is a saddle stitch stapler. I know it's shaped like this, and you can also use long arm stapler if you have one of those. It looks like a normal stapler with a very long piece at the back. Or you can also, I believe, if you have a stapler that the back flips out on, you can use that and staple into a soft object. It'll put the staple, and then you can just bend the ends under. There's a couple of different ways to do that, but I will actually link down below the supplies that I used to put those together, because I do put these together at least several times a year. I went ahead and invested in the saddle stitch stapler. Anyway, and I'll show you how I put these together. Okay, so let's get started. What I have open right now is the InDesign document that I created that has our trip information in it. So the first page is just a title page. So it says My Trip 2018. It could be whatever your trip is, whatever you want to call it. And then I have two pages that are the repeating pages for each day. So the left side is a daily journal. It has information. It has where you're going to be. It has the weather, what your plans are, so you can list all of your activities. I usually have a couple of things that are pre-printed, and then I write things in afterwards. Down at the bottom, there's hotel information if you're going to be staying in a hotel. Obviously, if you're not, you can take that out. And then on the right side, for every single page, I have thoughts and key memories of the day and priorities and carry forwards for tomorrow. So under the thoughts and key memories, usually that's just kind of a spot where I journal, where I make notes. You'll see in this example, I used our trip we took several years ago to Yellowstone. There was one day that, oh my gosh, I swear you, the mosquitoes were ginormous and they were attacking us. And that was the day we were on the hardest hike of our entire trip. And we were so tired when we got to the bottom, and we just got swarmed. And I was running. It was horrible. So I can laugh now. At the time, it wasn't funny. But anyway, so those sorts of things are what we write down. And then as far as priorities and carry forwards for tomorrow, I use that for things that occurs to us that we want to do. Maybe we want to go back someplace. Anyway, it's just a spot, kind of like almost like a to-do list, but not really, because you're on vacation. So anyway, this is the basic setup of the document. And then I'm going to go ahead and, all right, so here's our sample trip. These column headers at the top are the different things that are going to show up in your InDesign document. So you have day, if you come over to Excel, you see day. So these all are your placeholders in the document. And you can put whatever information you want on here. I usually have the day number and the date and the location. If you're staying at a hotel, you can include your hotel information and phone. It's kind of nice if you're traveling to have all of that in paper, even if you have it electronically as well. There's a spot for activities. So if you have some place you need to be at a specific time, you can fill that in, where you're going to be. And obviously, if we go back to InDesign, we have 10 or 11 spaces. So you can carry these across however many you want. So you could be like activity 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. You could have time in between each one. It's really up to you. It just depends on what information you need. I need to save this as a tab delineated text file, because that's what you have to import into InDesign. Come back over, select data source. There it is. Open. Okay. So let's just go ahead and click on preview just for the sake of fun. So you can see it's pre-filled in day 1 and the date. And that's what's here on this first line. As you can click through, you can see what's going to be on the next pages. So when you are happy with what that looks like, then you come back over here and create a merged document. You can tell it what range you want it to include. Row 1 is your headers. Those will not be included. So this technically, according to InDesign, is row 1. So you're going to want 1 to 14, which is another reason why it's kind of handy to have those day columns, is because then you know how many rows you're wanting to include. So we'll say, actually, let's do range 1 to 14 and tell it okay. So it'll think, and then it will create a new document for you. That overset text warning, it basically means if you have more words than there is room in a text field, that's called overset text. So it lets you know if you have overset text, you're going to need to make that text box bigger or take some data out. All right, so this is our merged document. Now, this is where it gets a little wonky because I did want the title page. I didn't want to have to do it in a separate document. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here, select that, and then delete. And you can actually hold down on a Mac the Command key. I think it might be, I don't know if it's Control or Alt on Windows, I apologize. And then you can select each of those pages and just delete them all at once. I know it's kind of a pain, but that way when I print it, it all prints at one time. So I'm just going to delete those pages. And now we have our spreads. So we have page day 1, day 2, day 3. There's day 4, 5, 6, and you get the general idea. So that's how you can use the same idea that I had talked about previously in the merging dates into your InDesign document to create planner pages. You can do the same thing and create a travel booklet for your next trip. Like I said, I like having these because it gives me a place to have the information that I need for like hotel confirmations, and if we're going on excursions, I have that information at my fingertips. But at the same time, it's also a record of my trip and a place for me to write down memories and things that I want to remember, and then also to help kind of plan the next day. So if we're talking with somebody and we hear about a really great restaurant that they recommend in an area, that, oh, if you're going there tomorrow, you should go to this restaurant. That's where you can put that information here under priorities and carry forwards. Oh, so-and-so recommended this great restaurant. So then the next day when you're there, you can either write it in or you can look back and figure out, what was recommended from the person that you talked with. So that's how you do this in InDesign. Now, bonus, let me show you how I originally did this. So originally, back in 2015, I did not have InDesign, and I actually hand typed this all into Word. So I created a table and typed in all the information about the hikes that we wanted to do, the family reunion, and then I actually created a page and then just copied and pasted it going forward. So you can do this in Word, and to be honest with you, these text boxes were actually a little bit easier to do in Word because it is a table, and I basically just filled the table cells in with a color. So, and I imagine you could probably do a mail merge in Word. I'm not going to get into that, but if you are adept at doing mail merges in Word, I imagine you could do something similar to what I did in InDesign and bring everything forward. So that's another option for that. So I hope that was helpful. I have gone ahead and printed out our actual booklets, and the next thing I'm going to do is show you how I put them together.
Okay, so let's talk about how to put these together. So the first thing you'll need is your booklet that you're wanting to put together. So I have the paper, which is just plain copy paper, and then I have like a craft type cardstock for the cover. I mentioned earlier I'm using a saddle stitch stapler. That's what this looks like. Let me turn it this way so you can see the whole thing. So you basically put the fold here and then it staples straight into the fold, and then it actually bends the staples for you. And then you'll also need a paper trimmer. Now the rotary style ones work the best. They look like this. You can use the other style that is just a blade style, but it doesn't cut quite as well through several layers at a time. So if you make these a lot, or if you have one, you'll want to use the rotary style. Like I said, you can use the other kind if you like. The other option, if you want, is to get a cutting mat and just get a rotary cutter. You would just need to use a ruler as a straight line, and you could cut it that way. So that's the other option. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is to fold your booklet in half. You can do it all at one time. I think I'm actually going to do it several pages at a time. So I'm going to do this really quick and I will be right back when I am done. Okay, so here is my booklet. It's folded in half. You will notice that, let me see if I can get it to focus, but the pages are sticking out, like they're not all flush at the end. And the more pages you have, the more they will stick out. And to be honest, that's okay, because we're going to cut it after we've stapled it together, so that will get fixed. All right, just making sure everything's even. The other thing I'm going to want to fold is my cover. So once you have it folded, what you're probably going to want to do just to sharpen the crease a little bit more is take either a bone folder or even the side of a panel work and just press down and run it along the side. So you want to do that on your cover, and you're going to want to also do it on your pages as well. That just makes the fold a little tighter and makes the fold a little thinner as well. We have our booklet. See how the pages are hanging over? That's okay. We will fix that. So you are going to want to staple it before you trim. Because like I said, you're going to be cutting it all even anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I usually just line the edge of the booklet up on either side, and that gives me 2 staples to hold it together. So it looks like this, and on the inside, it looks like that. All right, so there's my booklet. Now we need to trim it up. So the regular Midori is 11 centimeters by 21 centimeters. So it's like 110 millimeters by 210 millimeters. So approximately 4.33 inches by 8.25 inches. That's the approximate amount. So this is very hard to see. Give me a second, I'm going to mark this side. So here's my tip if you are working with paper trimmers and the numbers are very hard to read, like this one. Like they're raised, but like from here I can't see them, especially not in the light in here. So this is the 11 centimeter mark on this side, and this is the 21 centimeter mark on that side. So right now the booklet overhangs. Let's see how much it overhangs by. You gotta love the conversion. So it overhangs by about 1/2 centimeter. So this, I presume, this line here is 1 centimeter, so we want half of that, which, oh, the finaglings of doing this. I could probably just leave it, but I'm going to eyeball it. So this is where the booklet is, so I'm going to line it up about halfway. That looks good. All right, now you just have to sit there and keep going back and forth until you cut all the way through. You can kind of see we're working through just a few sheets at a time. And we need one more cut. There we go. All right. So you've got that end trimmed. Now the good news is this side we can just line straight up with the edge. And I do find it easier to cut from the low end to the high end, so cut towards the fold, because it gives it something to kind of ramp up, if that makes sense. There we go. Okay, so we have that end cut. So now this is the right height, and so now we need to cut it to the right width, which will be here. Now I always like to double check and just make sure. If I open this up, I can see where the printing is, and I can see when I cut it, I'm not going to be overlapping the printing, so I'm fine. I always like to double check because sometimes things don't print how you think they're going to, and you want to make sure that you're not going to be cutting anything off. So make sure if you're lifting this up to check and see how you're doing that you don't move the booklet, because then your cuts will get all wonky. There we go. So now you have the Midori style notebook. You have it cut where it is not trimmed everything off, and now we're all set. So that is how you assemble the booklet. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as I mentioned before, I'd appreciate a thumbs up if you liked the video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.